There is a version of this moment that lives in every passive income ad you have ever seen. You are somewhere warm. There is a laptop. A notification appears. Your investments just paid you while you slept. You close the laptop, stretch, and stare at the ocean. Here's what actually happens. You check the dashboard on a Tuesday at 7 p.m. The number reads $1,047. You sit with it for about 4 seconds. Then you close the laptop and go make dinner. Not because $1,000 a month in passive income does not matter. It matters enormously. But the way it matters has almost nothing to do with the beach. My name is Nick and I spend a genuinely unreasonable amount of time thinking about the psychology of money, specifically the gap between what we imagine a financial milestone will feel like and what it actually does to a life once you arrive at it. If you have ever rolled your eyes at a passive income guru and thought there has to be a more honest version of this conversation, hit subscribe because today we are going inside what $1,000 a month in passive income actually does to your daily life. Not the highlight reel. The specific, unglamorous, genuinely powerful Tuesday version. And I will tell you right now what the 5 things are, because I want you holding all of them in your head as we go through this. It changes what you tolerate at work. It changes how you spend money. It changes how you think about time. It changes what motivates you about the next 1,000. And it changes what you worry about. 5 things. All of them quieter than you expect. All of them more powerful than the beach ever promised. But before we go through them, let me give you the number in context. Because the number itself is where this gets genuinely interesting. $1,000 a month in passive income sounds like a lot until you say it out loud. And someone points out that the median American earns more than that in a week. And it sounds like nothing until you look at what it actually represents in terms of capital deployed to generate $1,000 a month, $12,000 a year from investments at a conservative 4% withdrawal rate. You need approximately $300,000 working on your behalf. At a 7% average annual return, that same $300,000 throws off roughly $21,000 a year, or about $1,750 a month. Which means that depending on how you source it, $1,000 a month in passive income represents somewhere between $250,000 and $300,000 in deployed capital generating returns autonomously. That is not a small thing dressed up in a modest number. That is a genuinely significant capital milestone. The modesty of the monthly figure obscures the scale of the achievement behind it. And yet almost nobody who reaches it feels what they expected to feel. Because the way it changes a life is not through dramatic transformation. It is through the quiet, daily, almost invisible restructuring of options. And options, it turns out, are the raw material of a completely different kind of daily life. Let me introduce you to 2 people. Marcus and James work at the same company. Same role. Same $78,000 salary. Same Friday morning commute. Same mortgage payment on the first of the month. On paper, they are identical financial profiles. The difference, the only difference, is that Marcus has spent the last 6 years building passive income streams, dividend accounts, a small rental property, an index fund portfolio that has grown to the point where it generates about $1,100 a month on its own. James has not built any of this. James's $78,000 is his entire financial story. Every dollar that comes in is connected to a day of work. Marcus's $78,000 is one chapter of a book that is writing itself in the background while he commutes, while he sits in meetings, while he makes dinner on Tuesday nights. Watch what a single ordinary Wednesday does differently for each of them. Their manager sends an email at 4 p.m. requesting everyone stay late for an unplanned meeting about a project that could have been handled in a memo. James stays. He is annoyed, but he stays. And he does not say much in the meeting. And he absorbs the inconvenience quietly. Because the math of not staying, of being the person who pushed back on an unreasonable request, is a conversation he cannot afford to have. Not because James is weak or without opinions. Because James's financial floor is exactly as high as his salary. And any disruption to the salary is a disruption to everything. Marcus also stays. He is also annoyed. But somewhere in the back of his mind, not loudly, not dramatically, not in a way that turns into a confrontation, there is a quiet awareness that he does not strictly need this particular Wednesday to go his way. That $1,100 arrived this month regardless of how this meeting went. That the floor beneath him, while not dramatically lower than James's, is meaningfully more resilient. And that awareness, as small and silent as it is, changes how Marcus sits in that meeting. What he is willing to say. What he is willing to let slide, and what he is willing to quietly hold the line on. Same salary. Same meeting. Two completely different internal experiences of the exact same Wednesday afternoon. That is thing number one. Change number one. It changes what you tolerate at work. This is the one that surprises people most, because they expect passive income to feel like freedom from work. What it actually feels like, at $1,000 a month, is more like a change in the terms of employment. Not a resignation letter. Not financial independence. Just a quiet, internal renegotiation of what the job is for and how much of yourself you are willing to subordinate to keep it. When your entire income is a salary, every workplace decision is filtered, consciously or not, through the question of whether this decision could cost you the salary. That filter operates constantly. You do not notice it because it has always been there. But it shapes what you say in meetings, which projects you volunteer for how much pushback you are willing to offer when someone above you makes a decision you think is wrong, how much of your actual perspective you keep quietly to yourself because the cost of expressing it is not worth the risk. $1,000 a month in passive income does not eliminate that filter, but it changes the threshold at which it activates. The perceived catastrophe of losing the salary is lower when $1,000 of your monthly income does not require the salary to exist. And that lower perception of catastrophe, that slight but real reduction in the stakes, changes what you say, what you ask for, what you are willing to let be said to you without responding. Self-determination theory, the framework developed by psychologists Edward Deci and Richard Ryan, has documented this phenomenon across decades of research. Perceived autonomy, meaning the genuine felt sense that you have options and are not trapped, dramatically changes the quality of human decision-making, motivation, and psychological well-being. People who feel they have genuine options make better decisions. They experience less chronic stress. They are paradoxically more engaged at work, not less, because their engagement comes from genuine interest rather than from fear. Marcus does not have financial independence. He has financial breathing room. And breathing room, it turns out, is worth more than almost anyone who does not have it can fully appreciate from the outside. Change number 2. It changes how you spend money, not the way you expect. The change is not that you spend more freely or more extravagantly. It is that the texture of spending changes. Specifically, small spending becomes less emotionally loaded, and the cumulative relief of that is more significant than it sounds. Here is the mechanism. When every dollar of your income comes from labor, from trading measurable hours of your finite life for a paycheck, every dollar you spend carries an implicit cost, measured in time. That $14 lunch is not just $14. It is some fraction of a real hour of your real life. That $80 dinner is not just $80. It is a piece of an actual workday. This is not an irrational way to think about money. It is actually a useful and grounding way to think about money. But it creates a kind of low-grade spending arithmetic that runs in the background of small decisions, constantly taxing cognitive energy in ways that accumulate over time. When $1,000 a month is arriving from sources that do not require your direct time, the calculation changes. Not because you stop caring about money, not because you become careless or lose sight of long-term goals, but because some percentage of your monthly income is now decoupled from your labor. And that decoupling, even at 10 or 15% of total income, changes the emotional weight of small purchases in a way that is genuinely hard to describe to someone who has not experienced it. The $14 lunch is still $14. But $14 of it was, in an abstract and real sense, covered by money that did not cost you an hour of Tuesday. James thinks about the $14 lunch. Marcus does not. Both of them eat the same lunch. But the cognitive energy James spends on the small spending decision is energy Marcus has available for something else. And over the course of a day, a week, a year, that difference in available cognitive bandwidth compounds into meaningfully better financial decisions, better work decisions, and a fundamentally different experience of daily life. Quick gut check before we get to the third change. What is your current monthly passive income? Not what you hope it will be. The actual number right now. If it is 0, that is a completely valid and useful place to start. And every person reading this who has built $1,000 a month started at 0. But know the number. Because what I am about to tell you about the third change is only fully useful if you can run the actual calculation yourself. Change number 3. It changes how you think about time. This is the strangest of the 5 changes. And it only happens once, the first time you sit down and do the calculation. Take your $1,000 a month in passive income. Divide it by your effective hourly rate. Not your nominal hourly wage, but the real effective rate you earn when you account for the full cost of your working life. The commute time, the preparation time, the hours you are mentally at work even when you are physically somewhere else, the Sunday evening anxiety that belongs to Monday. For most full-time workers, this number, the true effective hourly rate, lands somewhere between $20 and $40 per hour when You are honest about it. At $30 per hour, $1,000 a month in passive income represents approximately 33 hours of your life every month that you are no longer trading for money. 33 hours. Nearly a full work week every single month. Produced without your direct time. When Marcus sat down and ran this calculation for the first time, he was quiet for a while afterward. Not because 33 hours suddenly appeared in his schedule. He still works full-time, the hours are not freed up in any literal sense. But because the way he thought about those 33 hours changed. They became visible to him in a way they had not been before. The portfolios stopped being an abstract number on a screen and became a concrete representation of a portion of his life that was no longer for sale. This is what changes about your relationship with time when passive income becomes real. Not the hours themselves, those remain the same. But the felt sense of what your remaining working hours mean shifts. When you know that some percentage of your financial life no longer requires them, you start to see your time differently. And how you see your time determines how you spend it. The people who build real financial freedom through passive income are not necessarily the ones who resist lifestyle inflation through heroic, ongoing willpower. They are the ones who make one structural decision before the money arrives to treat the passive income as fuel for the next milestone, not as spending capacity to automate its reinvestment the same way they automated its generation, and to hold the lifestyle floor where it was deliberately until the passive income itself at a level that genuinely justifies it, tells them otherwise. Here is the reframe I want to leave you with. $1,000 a month in passive income is not the beach. It is not retirement. It is not financial independence. It is the first real proof that the mechanism works. The first Tuesday where money arrived without a corresponding hour of your life leaving. The first morning where the floor beneath your work decisions was slightly different than it was the month before. The first time the abstract idea of money working while you sleep stopped being an idea and became something you could feel in a meeting, in a lunch decision, in the quality of a Sunday evening. Marcus is not free. But he is living a fundamentally different daily life than James. Same salary, same company, same Tuesday. Because of something invisible that operates below the surface of every ordinary decision he makes. He tolerates less that does not serve him. He spends with less anxiety. He thinks about his time differently. He is motivated by proof rather than hope. And his worries have moved from the floor to the ceiling. None of that shows up in any beach photo. All of it shows up on a Tuesday at 7 p.m. when he checks the dashboard, sees the number, sits with it for 4 seconds, and goes to make dinner. That is what you are building, not the ocean. The Tuesday. I am not a financial advisor. And none of this is financial advice. These are just patterns I have watched play out with real numbers attached. Take what is useful and leave the rest. If this gave you a new way to think about what you are actually building toward, drop a comment and tell me where your passive income currently sits. Even if the number is 0, that is a completely honest and useful place to start. I actually Read every single one. And if you want to see the video about the net worth levels where life starts feeling different, it is right there on your screen. Go watch that one next. I will see you in it.